Okay, here's our next step. We're going to get this movement out, but we're not going to flip it over yet, only because I have too many parts out here. The movement, once the stem is removed, can just come right out. And I'm going to put it right on a plastic movement holder, only because I'm laying it on the dial. And we're not going to tighten that, we're just going to hang on to that for a little bit. It's tight enough that it won't move. So let's look at some parts here. We're going to put the stem back in. Come around here. You know, like I said, I did this a little backwards just to get an idea. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to turn my movement holder around. And when we put the stem back in, we're going to push down right there. Push that stem in. And then everything is back in place. Those gears aren't going to go anywhere. I can engage and disengage, move things around. The first position right there is winding position. You can look at this little pin in the two slots where they go in. So there's winding. One click out is date setting. And that looks like it's this gear right here for the date setting. The inner gear right here is the winding. And if you go all the way, then we're at time setting. And at the same time, when you set your time, you have this device right here. That's our hacking lever. That is, let's see if it's going to move. See how that jumped out of the way? When I go to set the time, that lever puts pressure right against this wheel. That's the balance. Just pushes right up against that, stops it. That's the heart of the movement. Once you stop that from moving, the watch won't tick. That's the hacking mechanism. All that is housed right in this area right here. We're going to go back to winding mode, and these gears should stay in place, although this one will not. Let's get that out of the way, because I am going to turn this over. Maybe it won't. Okay, that doesn't appear like it's going to come out, so that's good. This, I'm talking about this gear here coming out. There's our escape wheel. That doesn't appear to want to come out right away, so that's good. However, I'm going to take this out anyway. This is the pallet bridge and pallet fork. Like I said earlier, I'm doing this a little backwards just to give you a background on how this mechanism works, if nobody has ever had one of these apart. Normally the first thing I do, take the movement out, take the hands off, take the dial off, assemble from the back, the other side. There's our pallet bridge, our pallet fork, and then our escape wheel can come out. So we can at least be sure that no parts are going to fall out of this when I turn this over. And to make sure, I'm going to turn it over right now. There we go. here we are with the dial up. Because we took some gears out, these are not engaged in anything. They're just kind of hanging out nice and loose. And we have a hand puller. We're going to come in with a grooved slotted piece of paper, and we have our standard hand puller. Going to come in, grab onto that hand, second hand comes off, there's our minute hand. Hopefully that was in the shot, maybe it wasn't. Lastly, the hour hand. And off that comes. So there we have everything taken apart as far as the hands go. Not a bad looking dial, if you ask me. It's just that name is to me reminds me of something gaudy, but it's not bad looking. Given the price of these, not so bad. Now, we lost a couple of parts, and I knew this would happen. This wheel came out. We'll worry about that later. And this one came out because that was attached to the second hand. Those were all engaged. They were in one here, and then the second hand pinion was right through there. You know, we're doing this a little backwards. That's okay. When we put this together, we're going to do it the right way. So, where do we proceed next? There's got to be some kind of mechanism holding on that dial. Since I never had one of these apart, I'm not sure how it's going to work. I do think this plastic ring, this gray plastic ring, has to come off first. And I'm not sure how we're going to get that off. Let's see. We have it's engaged right here with a pin, and there's one 180 degrees across from it to orient that spacer ring. We have a screw here, and then one 180 degrees apart. Those could be screws that hold on the dial through the dial feet. I don't know. We're going to find out. I'm going to turn it to the left 180 degrees. Let's see what happens. Does that release the dial? The answer is yes. So there's the dial coming off. Turn those screws 180 degrees, and it will release the dial. Good to know. Here's our dial. On the back side, 2 dial feet. It looks like those screws engage those dial feet with a wedge type system. Not uncommon. A lot of Swiss movements are designed that way as well. Okay, look at this. Now we're on this side. This side of the movement, and we can get a look at some components here. We're just going to pan around here and have a look. I'm not exactly sure what these parts do, but we're going to find out. So let's go to our second click for date setting. Okay, if you look right in the middle of your screen, you can see some gears turning, and there's your quick date setting mechanism through these gears. You got a white one and a gold one, and they are clicking that along, and the detent, the part that's keeping it, see the number 17, the number 18, the number 19, that little spring-loaded piece, that's allowing that to spring and then snap in. So that keeps that date wheel from moving. This mechanism here is a pawed gear that looks like it's going to engage those teeth for when you hit midnight. That will come around, and we will work on that later when we go to put this together. Okay, we're 11 minutes in. It looks like that spacer, that gray spacer ring, can come off now. I'm not sure how it's going to come off, so we're not going to worry about it just yet. Okay, for now, we're going to leave this as it is. In our next video, we're going to start taking this side apart and the other side apart and see what's doing, how things are working.